So we have two opportunities during the year to do this kind of thing. When it's full on rainy season, it's too hard to burn things. Everything's wet, which is great. It's a wonderful time of the year. And then later rainy season, we have the opportunity. But the best opportunity is early rainy season, which it is now, because we're not going to start a forest fire. And we end up with these burn spots that my friend really likes to plant, because the native plants haven't recaptured it. And by the end of the rainy season, they have. And so we can get a jump on it. We can burn it, we can plant it, and then we can control that space. This year, I happen to have some beans, for example, that I can plant. Hi, honey. Shut up. Shut up. And I can put those beans, and I can nitrogen fix in those spots. Beans nitrogen fix. And, we're trying to improve the soil is the ultimate goal. And so, there's an annual cycle to how we can plant, how we can very selectively burn, and this is very selective burning. The way it's working is that we're actually concentrating some of the branches into one spot, and so we get a place with something resembling biochar. It's not the same as fancy-ass permaculture biochar that somebody's going to work on. And but so the human impact can actually be a good thing for benefiting from it. And there's places in the Amazon, the Yucatan, Pacific Northwest, and I'll bet you all around the world where primitive, smart humans have improved the land for human use, and perhaps even for overall biological use. If you look at like how life works, how living organisms work, they live on the edge, They things live on the shoreline a lot. I mean, there's deep sea life, there's all kinds of life that lives everywhere. Any niche that can be available will be used. But humans can be part of increasing edge. We can increase microclimates. And in that sense, even if you look at something like planting for climate change, which I've written about, we can move species around. We can be a species that moves species around. Birds move seeds around, right? There's ruminants that eat things, and they eat things that they were co-evolved with. So they eat the seed, they shit it out, and that seed does well in their shit. And in fact, some of those species couldn't have lived if some ruminant didn't eat it and shit it, because they co-evolved with the species. So we're looking at a very complex system here, and humans can be a positive part of that. I'm very down on humans, and some other humans are as well. There's a lot of people who think that, just humans should get off the fucking planet and then it'll be fine. I'm not into that. I understand that most humans are going to be human focused, and we don't have to kill all the humans. They're killing themselves anyway. We don't have to actually do that ourselves. Well, we are doing ourselves, but like people with a kind of a higher level of understanding of the relationship of humans and the planet don't have to like get involved with going and encouraging that. If anything, we should be setting up alternative systems for after the collapse of civilization, so that the next humans that exist can continue to exist. Does that really matter in the bigger ethical and moral picture of the universe? No, it doesn't matter if humans exist or not. But we do have this kind of internal thing of like self-preservation. You know, we have it in terms of our individual self. We want it for our family. Then we, like fascist little fucks, want it for our group. You know, and we want to kill the other people over across the hills. You know, we're just kind of designed, and as are most animals, to control territory and to kill anything that attempts to intrude upon it. That's terrible in terms of, I mean, we think it's terrible. It's how it is. Now, we could wake up and say, okay, we're all one big tribe on the planet, and we're all destroying it in various ways. We don't have to get racist, nationalist, religious about it. And if we want to live, any of us, then we're going to have to get back in tune with the natural world and our odd relationship with it. And we're not normal animals, right? We're humans. We have the complete capacity to destroy the whole planet, and that's exactly what we're doing. We are destroying the planet and ourselves. It's kind of a bummer for everybody. We're going to watch ourselves die. We're going to see people starve to death and civilizations fall, and there'll be more wars. That's not hard to predict. And you might say, well, somebody predicted that a long time ago and it didn't happen. Malthus, for example. Well, actually, I would agree with those people. Malthus was ahead of his time. We have seen that we can continue to use energy more, and we can still grow the population, and overall violence probably has decreased. And there's some speakers, you know, you can watch a TED Talk or something on this, and it's great stuff. But the entire world is becoming sicker and more inhospitable. We are de-terraforming the Earth. We are making it less like Earth. And we need things to be in balance. We need we need a healthy Earth or we die. And we are currently doing every fucking thing we can to destroy everything that sustains us. And it's happened in the last, 100 years, 200 years, even more in the last 50 years. This is a very short time span, while the human genome has been around for a long time. So if you think you like humans, we might want to think about the fact that we're on an extremely fast track on a geological level, certainly, but even just on a recent epoch of humanity thing, we are just killing the shit out of ourselves. I'm doing this in my own personal life to some degree. I'm working on that. Oh, God, it's beautiful out there, isn't it? What are you guys barking at? They're very good at barking at stuff. Oh, I gotta lay down. I'm beat up. Anyway, we got a lot of shit to figure out, but not many people are taking actual action. There's a lot of activists, you know? Activists. What a useless bunch of fucking assholes. I hate to say that. It's not nice at all. But talking, not doing is not good. I got lots of activists who want to come here for free. Their action is that they want to go from their rich world to a poor place and take money from it and have supposedly poor people work for them for free to do the things that they think are important. If they want to come here, they should raise money to do it if they don't want to pay for themselves, or whatever they can do to suck money off the industrial world and actually invest it in the places that matter, the places that they haven't yet destroyed. You know, people talk about saving the Amazon. Well, save this fucking place. I'm doing everything I can. I'm doing really innovative work, actually. And I'm even trying to change human culture so that people are really actively doing things like plant reproduction. I think plant reproduction should be taught in elementary school, and that it should be a part of every culture in the world. and plant reproduction like perennials, things that, you know, last and continue to give food. And I'm okay with it being human centric. We can pick trees that serve us better than the ones that don't. That's okay. But most of them serve us pretty well. Like even the pines here, the pines which I insult, I want to make sure that there's always pine forests, pine groves around here because they make great beams for human use in building, and that is sustainable. And then of course I want to plant fruit trees and this tree and that tree. And I see online that everybody's got their favorite tree they think is going to save the world. Nah, it's all of them. We need them all. Even the spiky, mean ones that I'm not a big fan of. I want those here too. I want to plant whatever's native, and I want to plant near natives. I want to plant things that are nearby because as the climate changes, those trees will then be able to reproduce by seed in this place when the other ones die, because the trees that are here now aren't necessarily the trees that were here before. And I don't know what time scale we're talking about, and I don't have to know these things. What I have to do is plant. And if we built into our culture a culture of planting everything, everywhere, many of the things we plant might not do that well. But as things change, we've planted little kind of Noah's arks of seeds, pockets that can reproduce quickly and return life to that place that would otherwise be desert, because there are so many places that used to be fertile, like the Fertile Crescent, for example, Tigris, Euphrates rivers, and those places are no longer fertile. We did that, pretty sure. I'm not a what would I have to be to know that? A biologist? An archaeologist? Probably an archaeologist. I don't know these things, but I have intuition based on everything I've read and everything I've learned, and I spent my whole life doing it, and I haven't been specialized. I'm a generalist, generalist, not a specialist. And so it's not like I spent my whole life studying just bromeliads or something. I look at the whole picture through all time and all places as best I can. And I'm lucky enough that I have the internet, and that also when I was younger, I went to libraries and read what I could. And so this is my conclusion, is that we got to get as many seeds in as many places as we can with some caution. There's, we don't want to, there's invasive plants, we don't want to fuck places up, but it's never going to hurt to plant a walnut tree around here. And that walnut tree may never be happy here, it may never reproduce on its own. But I'm also not going to fall for this goal of like planting fast-growing trees. I'm against the fast-growing tree movement. I don't know if that's a movement, but it seems to be a little bit. Like moringas, black locust, that's a tree, not a bee, or an insect. And I think that there's this desire with some people to get this short-term reward for planting things, and I understand that, and I look at, how can we replant a field and what we can do as pioneer species in this, but the ultimate goal is to have a very stable system that has deep forests and that the sun hardly hits the ground, and we can do this. And right now I'm looking out over this lake, this beautiful lake, and I can see land that is being destroyed. It is going to not have any trees on it later, and I see hills where the trees are dying. I'm right on the edge of it. I am in a fight against deforestation and desertification. And I'm underfunded, and people don't really understand it or care. I've got no donors, big bullshit projects. I just read about, what business was it? Oh, it was Bank of America, who I bank with and really don't like. And they have these big millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars they're going to give to ecological programs. And I can pretty much guarantee you that none of those ecological programs will help the dirt, the earth itself, at all. Now, I looked through it briefly. I'll have to look through it again. I don't want to convict them of their ecological crimes. And in a sense, I'm part of their ecological crime because I bank with them. I bank with them since 1985. And they fuck me over right now with weird fees and things I didn't agree to. And they can just send me a letter and say, oh, we changed our terms of agreement. Well, I need to send them a letter that says, I'm going to change my terms of agreement. Although really the only one they would care about was if I said, I'm not going to bank with you. And I'm so tiny, and I'm actually in debt, that they would not give a shit whether I bank with them or not. They make way too much money off other people. And so, these large banking systems, other corporations, ultimately don't care at all about the planet. They care about themselves because entities want to benefit themselves. And that includes you as an individual. You're evil, probably. You figure that out. I'm not telling you that you are evil, but consider it. I don't think I do as good as I should do, and I do pretty great as far as the things we're talking about, as far as taking care of the planet. I've at least removed myself as much as I can without killing myself. And I have some positive aspects where I actively promote planting of things and taking care of land in a very different way than people normally do. I'm reinventing, culturally appropriating, if you prefer, old ways of doing agriculture. And that's a very good thing. As a world, we need to do that. I just read about how in California they are taking down almond trees because they don't have enough water to support the almond trees. They're dying. And that's because this year there's, like a 40-year low in the amount of water that is available to the land. And I'm scared shitless about that. California provides 40% of the, or some large percentage of agricultural products to the United States of America. And now, almonds use especially large amount of water, if I understand correctly. Oh God. But other crops will follow. And you can't just keep pulling water out of the aquifers forever. It's just like oil, except more important. We can actually increase conservation of oil faster than we can of water. I mean, if you don't got any water, if your kid doesn't have any water, you're looking at a 3-day problem. If you don't have light, if you don't have heat, if your building's built wrong, then you have a lot more options on how to adjust to that. But when you run out of water and then you run out of food, not a good thing. Now down here, it's interesting, and I've done a good job on this, I think, by picking where to live. This is Mesoamerica, where there used to be some of the biggest cities in the world. I think Tenochtitlan was one. That big pyramid-y thing to the north of it was actually from a prior civilization. It wasn't from the Aztecs or anything. The Aztecs were a trivial asshole civilization. I don't know why Mexicans identify so much with it. Actually, I do. It's because of when the Spanish invaded and who was in charge. But the Aztecs aren't really great. There's tons of other cultures that were here, and they were awesome. And the Aztecs came in as invaders and only really had their empire effectively for about 100 years. The Prepture were the same. They're great people. That's the people around here still. And no problem with them. But and they didn't fight with the Spanish and get killed as much. So that was cool. I love living here and everything. But the point is that in long term, they actually have a better water pattern here than California does. And so California is running out of water. That's because of human issues, actually. If there weren't so many humans there, it wouldn't be the case. The indigenous people who lived in